Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal and you are watching the Mojo Story. People in Israel woke up to a barrage of rockets that were fired from Gaza and a sound of sirens. It was a massive onslaught. This was a surprise attack by the Hamas. Now, in that attack, there are different accounts of the casualties. Some reports say 20 people in Israel have been killed in those attacks, and other reports say there are 60 assailants from Hamas assailants who come from Gaza Strip who are inside the Indian territory. Now you can watch those visuals. This is an Israeli tank and it's been taken over by by the people out there. 60 Hamas assailants are said to be in Israel. That is what foreign media is saying. Now, Israel has declared a state of war after those rocket attacks. And what's important is that infiltrations, unprecedented infiltrations, people from Gaza Strip moved into the Israeli territory, not by land, but via gliding into the Israeli territory. That's something that we've seen in those visuals, in those dramatic visuals which have gone viral now. We can in fact also use those visuals to start with to show the gravity of the situation on the ground. Cars that have been set on that caught fire after rockets landed in Israel. It was early hours on Saturday. Here are some of the things. Operation Al Aqsa Storm, that's what Hamas is calling it, and they say they have fired 5,000 rockets. But what was important in those visuals, there were people roaming around on the roads, armed gunmen wearing uniform, military uniform. Those are Hamas gunmen who have entered inside the Israeli territory. And as I was saying, some reports suggest that there are at least 60 of them inside the Israeli territory. Now, Israel has declared that it is war. It's not an operation. Israeli Prime Minister going on record to say that it's not an operation and it's an act of war. And Israel is going to win that war. Here is what Benjamin Netanyahu said.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה, לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחנית נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות. כינסתי את ראשי מערכת הביטחון, הנחיתי קודם כל לטהר את היישובים מהמחבלים שחדרו פנימה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות הללו. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע כמותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה.
I'm also joined by my colleague Harshit. Harshit, you have been following this story. What is the reason for this flare-up, this recent flare-up that we are seeing now? This was a sudden attack by Hamas that was carried out, a surprise attack. We know there is a history between Israel and Palestine, but what is the reason for this recent flare-up?
Right, as we could see, the Israeli Prime Minister declaring the state of war. In fact, Israel's ambassador to India himself has also given a statement in which he says that Israel is in a state of war with these Hamas people attacking Israel. And he has also mentioned that Israel will take every possible step to protect the citizens of Israel. As we can see, civilians are being killed, Zafar sir. But yes, you're right to an extent that there has been a history between Palestine and Israel. But for this particular time, it is quite difficult to say that what is a particular reason for behind Hamas attacking Israel, entering into the southern Israel and then killing the civilians out there. But also I believe now this will have huge repercussions. Israel's civilians have been killed, and along with which we are seeing that international support is now coming with Israel. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has also supported Israel, saying that we support Israel's right to defend itself, which is a big statement, I would rather say. But also, Zafar sir, I would actually like to ask you, what do you think how India is going to react towards this situation when we talk about India's stand in this particular conflict between Israel and Palestine? We see Prime Minister Modi visited Israel in 2017. He became the first Prime Minister to go and have a tour in Israel. After which Sushma Swaraj also said that India's stand on Palestine is not going to change. But how do you look at it? How do you think India is going to react to this particular situation now? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, India has issued an advisory to its citizens in Israel. That's the first thing, obvious thing for any government to do, any country to do, that they have issued an advisory and they have asked people to exercise caution, avoid unnecessary movement. There is a war which is underway. Two parties that are clashing, and there are a lot of civilians on the ground. So they have advised people to maintain caution. But as you were saying, that it's not just in this war, but in the previous confrontations also between different states, India has been having a constant stand that all the issues can only be resolved through dialogue and negotiation. That was the Indian stand about Ukraine when G20 meeting took place. Prime Minister Modi emphasized this, that consensus is needed and dialogue and diplomacy is the way forward. And that is precisely what India's stand is about Palestine and Israel. India wants that the two the two parties should sit down and resolve this issue mutually through dialogue. And that is what India will emphasize on. But for the moment,
Yes.
this surprise attack has drawn condemnation from so many countries that they are condemning. They say that Israel has a right to defend itself. But clearly, we have to wait for the retaliation, what Israel is going to do. They have already announced that it's a state of war, and they are going to do it like that. And
Yes.
yes, yes, Harshit.
Yes, as of now, it doesn't look like that there will be diplomatic things to sort out the issues. It looks like Israel is going to retaliate at a larger scale. And just for the viewers, I would like to mention here, this is not the first time we are witnessing this instance of violence between the two countries, especially Hamas attacking Israel from the Gaza Strip. There have been particular instances of violence before as well, and Israel have been dominating those instances. I would like to mention here in 1967, Israel won the battle against the Arabian countries. 1946, I remember Israel managed to beat the Arabian countries and take control over the land right there. But this time it looks like it will be a bit more from Israel, Zafar, I believe, because civilians have been killed, and it doesn't look like diplomatic relations are coming into the play.
And it's happened at such a massive scale, and Israel calls it a surprise attack. There are various elements of this surprise, and one important element is gliders entering Israeli territory. There is a border. It's completely sealed, but we saw from those dramatic visuals that gliders entering into Israeli territory. If we can have that video up, that has made this issue even more complicated, and that's precisely the reason that foreign media is quoting there are 60 assailants right now inside the Israeli territory. We can see from those visuals wearing military uniforms and firing. If you can have that video, yes.
See, here we can see gliders are being used like they are entering Israel, southern Israel particularly. So this is a kind of surprise because usually such kind of invasions happens from ground, like people trying to invade illegally or through the means which cannot be tracked. But this time it is seen, and the videos are being made. So this not only doesn't look like an attack, but it also looks like a statement which Hamas is trying to give, not only to Israel but at an international platform. I believe this is a statement for all the countries who were anyhow involved in this conflict between Israel and Palestine. The conflict of land, religion, multiple issues are involved there. Zafar, how do you look at it? How do you believe situation is going to move forward now?
Absolutely, there's something called as the Abrahamic Accord, where the UAE has already recognized Israel, and there are reports that Saudi Arabia could do it, and with Saudi Arabia, many other countries could do it. How is that going to work now, this will definitely have an impact on those negotiations and the recognition of Israel by Muslim countries. That this incident will have definitely an impact. But the basis of this incident is the blockade of Gaza, that has
Right.
been there since 2007. And while Hamas calls it that's that collective punishment because they are in control of the territory, Israel says
Right.
it's important to prevent these people from
Right.
collecting armory.
Right. And meanwhile, I am receiving a breaking news. I have received Saudi Arabia has called for an immediate de-escalation between Palestinians and Israelis. So this is a major news coming up. Saudi Arabia has called for an immediate de-escalation. Zafar, how do you look at it?
Absolutely, and that's quite understandable that Saudi Arabia would call for de-escalation. As I was saying, there is also talks and reports that Saudi Arabia could possibly recognize Israel following in
Right.
the footsteps of UAE and with Saudi Arabia, possibly Pakistan. There's also a lot of talks in Pakistan that whether it is favorable for that country to Israel to recognize Israel. It's not recognized yet, like many other countries. So clearly, those all those things will be
Right.
impacted. But it is quite on expected lines that Saudi Arabia has come in and asked to de-escalate, and that could be the stand of so many other countries as well.
Right, absolutely. And meanwhile, the situation seems to get more worse. And Israel's defense minister has come up and he has announced that Hamas militant group has attacked from sea, from sky, and from ground. So it seems to be a full-fledged war now. From all means, the attacks are happening, and Israeli defense minister has come up to announce this particular situation. So it seems like the situation is getting more worse now, which doesn't sound good for the civilians, either them be of Israel or those who are innocent in Palestine. I would also like to mention. So Zafar, what's happening now?
Yes.
What are you
The,
expecting?
now we're seeing Hamas releasing footage. We saw the dramatic visuals initially of these men preparing to launch an attack into Israel, wearing that gear, with all those gliders who infiltrated into Israel, and now we're getting news that Hamas has released a new video of the operation. We can maybe play that up to
Hmm.
understand the situation on the ground. Information warfare is also a factor whenever there's a war happening on the ground. In the fog of the war, there's always a scope of miscommunication and wrong communication. It's also a battle of narratives. That video
Right.
that was played, we don't know whether that when that was shot, but clearly it is connected with today's attack in the sense that you are seeing those men preparing and to launch the assault. Now, in the meantime, Iran has said that it supports Hamas attack on Israel. That's quite significant because Hamas has told, Hezbollah also to come into picture and to play its part while uh, Hezbollah is supported by Iran. So it's quite significant that Iran
Right.
has come in support of Hamas.
But my God, Zafar, when we look at this video, it is a completely cinematographed video. I mean, it looks like a well shot, well planned, well directed video. And when I look at this video, and now when we see Iran has supported Hamas, which was, as you said, quite expected. But how do you look at it? When I look at it, it looks like we have been witnessing this conflict for a while now, for a few years. And when we see this particular attack, it looks like it's about, making this final attempt of whatever Hamas is trying to get from Israel, the issue of land Hamas is trying to get back. Does it look like a final attack to you?
Oh, there is another point that I may want to touch upon is that the Iron Dome, that is the Israeli security system that blocks these rockets, and that has quite successfully blocked these rockets in the past. Now, one reason that I think is that 5,000 rockets are fired simultaneously. That's to overwhelm that Iron Dome system. It may not have been, it may have been an effort to to fail Iron Dome system, because that has prevented these attacks in the past, and that could be one reason that so many rockets were fired. But as you were saying, that it's been building up for some time. I was going through the reports. It says that nearly 200 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli military raids this year alone, and 30 people have been, Palestinian attacks on Israeli they have targeted 30 people. So this has been building up for some time, and now it's reached to a point where there is an escalation of this level, that a barrage of rockets was fired at Israel, and infiltrators just moved in a surprise attack. Now it will be important, because Israel says that it's not an operation anymore, it's an attack. And you get some hint from the defense minister when he says that land, sky, and
See.
through the sea, the attack was. So obviously the retaliation would also be from all the three sides.
Right, and I'm actually a bit surprised to see how this attack has been carried, because Israel's secret agency, intelligence agency, Mossad, is known all over the world for the way they do the things, for they will carry their operations. And I'm a bit surprised how their secret agencies, their intelligence agencies, could get a cue that this such a large scale attack was being planned.
Well, all those questions will definitely come up. And as I was saying about the Iron Dome, if we can play up that video, that's been quite
Yes.
successful to block these rockets. But it seemed that it got overwhelmed this time by the thousands of rockets which are fired. Right. So you can see from that visual that how this system is blocking these rockets in the air and preventing them from falling on the ground. But in the meantime, Harshit, there are details coming in that the
Yes.
Indian government has
Yes.
estimated that there are about 18,000 Indian citizens in Israel, primarily caregivers employed by Israeli elders to take care of them, diamond traders, IT professionals, and students. So the advisory is for all of those. We have seen this unfolding since morning, and now obviously there is going to be a Israeli retaliation. How hard and how stern that's going to be, we'll have to see. But obviously there's more violence and more escalation on the cards. We'll keep watching this story and tracking this and bringing about all the developments to our viewers. But for now, thanks so much for watching, and thanks Harshit for joining me. We'll keep
Thank you.
updating
Thank you.
as the story develops. Thanks.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.